Rejoice, everyone. We're back with another Sekhie Reacts to Fate.
Joy.
Today we'll be doing both Xiang Yu and Consort Yu.
I mean, you couldn't do Consort Yu on her own.
No.
No. Her Wikipedia page is like half a paragraph in total. You could not. I'd like to make sure everyone gets introduced to the newest addition to the Fate shelf. And that would be Little Coon Android. He's adorable. He's precious. He's perfect. He's a little janky, as any first release of an Android is. I mean, he not quite the posability that you would expect, I think, from a Lancer like
He's very flat on his back.
Yeah, he's very flat. He's got like one spare leg for posability, two faces, and like a little. He also has this version of the Gaibolg, instead of just the spear version, because this one obviously has the little stand, so it looks like he's throwing it.
Mm-hmm.
I will say it's not. He could use like another 2 shoulder or arm pieces just for variability. He is pretty stuck in like only just a couple of poses. But anyways, he's very cute. Color's spot on, all that stuff. And then I'm sure I bragged about it before, and I know you can't see it, but Cleo is up there, enjoying her place near the history books, as she should be.
Just above Skahawk.
Yup, who you can see. And Elmoy, except his head is cut off. Because he's so tall.
Poor Waver.
Anyways, like Knick-Knack said, we are doing today Consort Yu and Xiang Yu. Which, for once, Knick-Knack pulled out a pair of servants that I have not studied before. Like, ever. Have not studied these people in history. I was like reading through the background, and I was like, oh, so this is happening during like the Qin Han sort of like time in Chinese history, which is something that like I've taken history classes before that have talked about like the Qin dynasty, Shi Huangdi, Qin Ershi, and Qin Xiang. And I knew about like the start of the Han dynasty and how like influential the Han dynasty is in China's history, how the Qin emperor is referred to as the first emperor of China. But I had not studied like generals and like specific characters in this kind of section of history at all. Not really. So this was completely new to me. Although, you know, it was still pretty interesting. I found myself writing a lot.
I figured you'd find it interesting. It is kind of like that war story up your alley kind of thing.
Yeah, you know, for all that I, you know, talk about like the classics and stuff, we know that Sekhie loves a good military drama and conquest.
That said, you didn't hear about these people before, but when I mentioned the name to Vorn just offhand the other day, Vorn knew instantly who they were.
Yeah. But I would wonder if that's maybe because they've been present in like one of the period dramas he's watched.
They're a lot more prevalent in, like, you hear more about them in Chinese pop culture apparently.
Yeah,
like,
so that's one of the things I was looking at, but really quickly before we get into this. Like, this is a list of like all the television shows and films that he's been like a major character in. And I'm pretty sure that Vorn's seen a couple of these.
Yeah.
Because Vorn watches Chinese dramas. I do too. I just don't watch them like as much as he does. Oh, that was a straight up anime. Well, so it's not quite, but it's like it's a wuxia TV series animated. Mm-hmm. They do a lot of those. But I want to say, I feel like I've seen one of these. I'm fairly certain I've seen either The Myth or King's War. At least one point. And then he's also in a bunch of games.
Including hit game FGO.
Yeah, which I avoided. In that respect, Consort Yu, who we're talking about later, I was actually looking at Consort Yu in pop culture, and on the list of actresses that I've seen here, I actually recognize this name. I've seen her in something else. She's in a movie with Jackie Chan and Jet Li that I own. So, like, you know, these are not exactly, like, small names in Chinese history. I mean, you know, you're talking about 2 of the most influential figures in the kind of the development of early Chinese dynastic history, you know? Very important. Which is why I was really surprised that Liu Bang wasn't in the game yet. Hopefully they'll do something big when they add him.
Probably eventually.
Because he's the first emperor of Han. Anyways, but I guess with that I can get started. So, Xiang Yu, born Xiang Ji. I'm gonna say right now, I didn't ask Vorn about pronunciation because a lot of this is in Mandarin, and Vorn speaks Cantonese somewhat. I also did not look up pronunciation guides, so we're going off what I think these are. So full disclosure, if you speak Chinese, I'm probably wrong. Just gonna put that out there. So he was the king of the Western Chu during the Chu-Han Contention conflict and period in early Chinese history. The Chu state was a Zhou dynasty vassal state located slightly south of the Zhou stronghold lands. It existed during the spring and autumn period from about 770 to 481 or 403 BCE, depending on which reckoning you're listening to, and it corresponded with the beginning of the Eastern Zhou period. Zhou royal authority at this time had eroded, and when the powerful Jin state was partitioned, the Warring States period began, which would then end in 221 BCE with the Qin dynasty under Shi Huangdi, China's first emperor, which, a little bit of a misnomer, but yeah, China's first emperor. We've actually talked about the Zhou dynasty and the Eastern-Western Zhou split before on the channel. I believe we talked about it when we did Tamamo?
I believe so. That's the only time I can think of where it would come up.
Yeah, because to Tamamo no Mai... She was Daji. Yeah. So she brought the downfall of, I think, the other Zhou. One of the two Zhous at this time in history.
It's unrelated, but like there's a point in the game where Qin Shi Huang sees a version of a Tamamo and instantly recognizes them as Daji.
That makes sense. But yeah, no, as I was writing that down, I was like, wait, these dates and reckonings feel familiar. I've talked about Eastern and Western Zhou before on this channel.
Holy shit, it's all connected. It's like one big cinematic universe.
Yeah, so and then Zhou was the first of the early Chinese dynasties, obviously, and technically you've got Sha, Shang, and Zhou, right? Shang we have archaeological evidence for. Zhou we have a lot of historical and archaeological evidence for, but both of these are like proto-dynasties compared to like the Qin and later the Han state. They weren't as expansive, they weren't as powerful, which is I think why, even though technically their kings would have been kings or emperors, that's why we call Qin Shi Huangdi the first emperor of China, like at least in the West. It's because he's the first sort of modern conception of an emperor ruling with like the level of power that we expected in this part of the world for an emperor. You know, like massive building projects, also like huge land armies, stuff like that.
Control of most of China.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Whereas before then you had a lot of like smaller states partitioned up or in alliances. It was more, not feudal. Feudal's not the word, but it was more small scale. Xiang Yu used his position in his life as a prominent noble to rebel against the Qin, becoming a warlord and eventually participating in the fall of the Qin dynasty and being a major player in the rise of the Han dynasty in Chinese history. Regardless of what story you follow, listening to his birth, he was born into nobility, although there are two different stories placing him from different families, basically just connecting him to other people far up the ancestry line, so like a claim to fame. He was the grandson of Xiang Yan, who resisted the Qin until his death in 223 BCE, at which point that was when the territory was annexed into the Qin. He was raised by his uncle Xiang Liang, and when he was 11, the Qin unified all of China. He was said to have a double pupil in one of his eyes, like the mythical emperors Shun and the Duke Wen of Jin. And that's seen as a mark of like being a king or a sage or a wise man in Chinese beliefs, and he was extraordinary. He stood just about 6 foot tall, a little higher, and he possessed a strength far greater than the normal physical strength, said to be able to lift like giant braziers all on his own. here's the part I found really funny about reading him. So his uncle, like, went to great lengths to try to educate him in, like, swordsmanship and scholarly arts. And he would, like, learn the basics and then stop and, like, never bother to master them. In fact, he once said, "Books are only useful in helping me remember my name. Mastering swordship allows me to face only one opponent, so it's not worth learning. I want to learn how to defeat thousands of enemies." So his uncle started to try to teach him, like, military tactics and strategy, but once he had the basic concepts down, he stopped. He was like, I don't want to learn anymore because it feels like it's playing a chess game, not actually doing anything. So, like, his uncle was, like, really disappointed in him because he was, like, basically refusing to become an educated young man and master anything.
It sounds like you in D&D.
What do you mean?
Why would I learn how to tactically use spells when I can just go in with a big stick and kill 50 people?
Look, the point of my D&D character is that if I pull out a support servant like Lord Elmaloy, right, Zhuge Liang, I can function as the servant, and he can stand behind me buffing me.
Enuma Elish to the face with a critical success.
What was the fucking... Well, like Medea's master in UBW.
Kuzuki?
Yeah, Kuzuki. I mean, he was fighting the servants one-on-one with buffs from Medea.
He's also a trained assassin from a mountain of assassins that are capable of fighting werewolves barehanded.
I'll get there. I'll get there. I've been doing pretty well for myself. So basically, his uncle was really, really disappointed in him, dissatisfied, and he just gave up. And he said, okay, well, you do whatever you want to do with your life. You're not listening to me. You're not letting me teach you. Fine, whatever. So then, when he was a little older, his uncle actually killed someone, and they had to flee the place they were living in. And they ended up in a territory that Shi Huangdi was doing an inspection tour of. And when Xiang Yu saw the procession of Shi Huangdi pass, he said, I can replace him. Because sheer unadulterated chutzpah of the young. So, viva la revolucion. In the year 209, Qin Shi was placed on the throne by a coup, and he was ruling when extensive peasant rebellions broke out all across the area ruled by the Qin. The administrator of Kuaiji, Yin Tong, invited Xiang Liang to meet with him to discuss a potential rebellion against the Qin state, and the Xiangs would trick him, lure him into a trap, and kill him, with Xiang Yu himself killing several hundred of his men, like, all at once. And then Liang would rebel on his own, rallying over 6,000 men from their home province, naming himself administrator and Yu as a general. His forces would swell to between 60 and 70,000 men who joined his cause, and he would name the grandson of King Huai, Mi Xin, as King Huai II of Chu. Yu distinguished himself as a marshal during this time, and Liang was later killed at the Battle of Dingtao, and in the winter of 208, a rebel force of the Zhao state, led by Xiaoxi, requested help. Huai II granted Yu the title Duke of Lu, and made him second in command to Song Yi, and he was ordered to go help Zhao. He also placed Liu Bang in charge of another army to attack the heartland of Qin, Guanzhong, promising whoever entered first into the city the title King of Guanzhong. This would become a contentious point in the history. This would be the turning point. So, Song Yi and Xiang Yu arrived in Anyang, and Yi wished to camp for 46 days. Yu was dissatisfied with this, so he accused him of treason and killed him. His subordinates then allowed Yu to take charge out of fear. He sent a messenger to King Huai, who approved of this act. In 207, he would split his troops and advance. Once the river was crossed, he ordered his ships and all but 3 days of his men's rations to be burned and destroyed, to force his men to succeed within 3 days or die. Talk about being between a rock and a tight place. Hell no. But his greatly outnumbered troops scored a massive victory, and thousands more rebels came to join his forces. Out of admiration and fear, it's said that the chiefs of these various rebel forces couldn't even look him in the eye. They knelt down in front of him rather than meet his eyes. So this was the Battle of Julu. As Knick-Knack sees, page 2. So Zhang Han, the Qin general at the time, sent one of his lieutenants, Sima Xin, to request reinforcements and supplies at Xianyang. The eunuch Zhao Gao, Zhao, he's related to the Zhao uprising, which is fucking hilarious, would deceive the emperor, however, and his pleas were dismissed, and then he would proceed to send assassins to kill him. Zhang Han and his 200,000 troops would surrender to Xiang Yu in the summer of 207 in desperation. However, Xiang Yu saw them do this, and he considered them to be disloyal and a disability, and he had them all buried alive at Xi'an, except for Zhang Han, Sima Xin, and Dong Yu, named the kings of Yong, Sai, and Di, respectively. This is the first of many brutal acts that will follow him throughout his life, burying 200,000 men alive. Yu then prepared to assault Guanzhong, but when he arrived, the pass was already occupied by Liu Bang's troops, and he was in control of the city, claiming the title King of Guanzhong as promised by Huai II, with Ji Ying, the third Qin king, supposed to serve as his counselor, which infuriated Yu. So then we get into the feast at Hong's Gate, which is another major turning point in this story. So he would invite Liu Bang to a feast with the intent to kill him, but decided not to. However, he did disregard Bang's claim on the city, leading his troops into Xianyang in 206, executing Ji Ying and his entire family, and burning the Yipang Palace, leaving a trail of destruction in his wake. He then insisted on returning home to Chu. There was also a point here where some of his subordinates wondered why he wouldn't stay in Xianyang and kind of press the offensive. And one of his subordinates called him a barbarian for wanting to go home or something, and he had the man boiled alive. That was a personal favorite of his. So then we get into the 18 Kingdoms period. So Yu crowned King Huai II with the title Emperor Yi of Chu, declaring himself the hegemonic king of Western Chu. That is one of the titles he's gone by. He goes by also Overlord or King of Kings or Conqueror of Western Chu, or Shichu Bao Wang, commonly shortened to either Bang Wang or Xiang Wang, which just means King Wang. And I guess in colloquial speech, even though Bang Wang just means Great King, it's basically synonymous with his name in China. So you say that, and you don't just think of any great king, you think of him. What the fuck is up with my throat? Hold on.
COVID.
Not allowed. What?
No.
Okay. He would then split the former Qin emperor into 18 kingdoms under this new emperor in name.
Wait. Split the Qin emperor or split the Qin empire? Because splitting the Qin emperor is a amusing thought if you split him into 18 kingdoms.
Yeah, okay. He split the Qin empire.
Okay.
Did I say emperor?
You said emperor.
Okay, into 18 kingdoms.
Okay, but to be fair, it's not like Xiang Yu hasn't done horrific executions up to this point.
That's true. He would then grant the land of Guanzhong to the three surrendered Qin generals and relocate Liu Bang to Hunzhong as king of Han. He then moved the puppet emperor to exile in Chen, ordering him to be assassinated on his journey there in 205 BCE by his own supporters. He would also kill the other king of Han, claiming his lands, and then the 18 kingdoms would begin to dissolve into factional fighting, with, one man claiming 2 or 3 other territories worth of kingdoms, and then allying with others, and sort of all coming down to a head. So then we get into the Chu-Han Contention period. This is only going to last 3-4 years. A lot happens in 3-4 years, though. So first is the Battle of Pengcheng. Pengcheng is the capital that he took for himself in Western Chu when he named himself king. So in 206, Liu Bang attacked Guanzhong while Yu was at war with the Qi. He He allied with 5 other kingdoms and attacked with 560,000 men, capturing Pengcheng, but Yu led his army of 30,000 back and defeated him, with the Han suffering great losses from this battle. Liu Bang would escape and retreat to Xianyang and defend that city until 204. One of his generals, Shi Jin, disguised himself as Bang so that Liu Bang could escape, and when Yu found this out, he had him burned to death. Chu and Han were now fighting on 2 fronts north of the Yellow River. Yu was not actually faring well at this time, and Liu Bang's allies were also harassing him from the rear. This is the Battle of Xianyang. By 203, Han was faring pretty well in this fight. Yu would then go on to capture Bang's father and his wife and threaten to boil his father alive. But Liu Bang reminded him that they were oath brothers from when they fought against the Qin, and therefore by doing that he would be committing patricide. So Yu requested an armistice that would come to be known as the Treaty of Hong Canal, and returned the hostages to Liu Bang, and they split China east and west into Chu and Han. As Yu retreated to the east, Bang renounced the treaty and attacked western Chu. He requested help from Han Xin and Peng Yue, who did not respond, and was defeated at the Battle of Guling. He then sent more messengers promising fiefs and vassal titles if they would help him in further fights against Xiang Yu. In 202, Han armies, led by the 3, surrounded western Chu on... You good?
Yeah.
3 sides and attacked. Now we get into the Battle of Gaisha and the end of our story. Liu Bang ordered his men to sing Chu songs as they surrounded Yu's camp, causing his forces' morale to plummet. Xiang Yu himself sank into Great Depression and composed the Song of Gaisha, and Consort Yu committed suicide. He then took 800 of his elite riders to attempt to break free of the surroundings. By the time he crossed the Huai River, he was down to just a few hundred men and lost in Yinling. He was directed to a swamp by a farmer who gave him the wrong directions, and by the time he arrived there, he had only 28 men left. In a last rally, losing only 2 men, he managed to take out over 100 of the approaching enemy. He then fled to the Wu River, but he refused to board the boat and return home, as the original 8,000 men that he had taken with him from the Chu territory had not survived any of these battles up to this point, although he did ask for his horse, Zhui, to be taken home. In his final stand, he killed over 100 men before falling to many wounds, and his body was mutilated and chopped up in order to claim the reward on his head. Liu Bang would unite China under the Han Dynasty, and he held a grand state funeral for Xiang Yu, befitting his title as Duke of Lu. His relatives were spared and granted minor titles. In terms of historical perceptions of the portrayals of his kind of attitude and stuff like that, he's known as a brutal man who focused on his personal abilities, which is a direct opposition to Liu Bang, who was a merciful man by many accounts and often focused on his supporters and getting as much help as he could. A lot of this is likely due to just the writing at the time. Like, you're going to write the history of the victors, you're going to make the man who became king sound good, because if you don't, he's going to kill you. Common sense, people. However, there are 3 idioms in Chinese that are all based on the story of Xiang Yu. The first is Yo Yang Wu Mai, Yo Yang Wu Mo, has courage but lacks tactics. The second is Ximian Chuge, surrounded by Chu songs, which means someone who's in a desperate situation with no help. And the third one I couldn't find a Chinese version of, but it meant having a Feng Zheng, but being unable to use him. As in, he had a good advisor, Feng Zheng, but he never actually used him or listened to his advice. And in many people who have analyzed his military strategy have compared him to Hannibal of Carthage and Shaka Zulu. Because he actually did have very good military strategy. I mean, it was mostly self-taught, and he did make a lot of mistakes, but there were some interesting...
He had a mind for it, just not a mind or talent for learning it.
Mm-hmm. So... There's not much on Consort Yu, as there never is about women in Chinese, or, women in history in general. There's usually considerably less about them, but... Consort Yu was also known as Yu the Beauty. She met Xiang Yu after the revolution against Qin began in around 209 BC. She fell madly in love with him and became his wife very, very fast. She would refuse to remain behind him, and instead she accompanied him on all of his military campaigns. In 202 BC, when Yu was at his lowest, he sang the Song of Gaisha, and Consort Yu performed a sword dance and sang a verse in return before committing suicide using his sword so that he would not be distracted by her. And then she was buried at Gaisha. So I figured I'd read out the Song of Gaisha and the Song of Consort Yu. So the Song of Gaisha, and that's sung by Xiang Yu, is, "My strength plucked up the hills, my might shadowed the world, but the times were against me, and Dapple," it's the translated name of his horse, "runs no more. When Dapple runs no more, what then can I do? And you, my you, what will your fate be?" And then the Song of Consort Yu is, "The Han army has conquered our land, surrounded with the singing of Chu. My lord's spirits are low, why then should I live?" Depressing.
Yeah.
Yeah. But sadly poignant, you know? Very poetical. I can understand why there's a lot of, like, love story dramas about this.
Dramatization of this?
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, if he really did compose this exact song, I mean, his final thoughts were of his, you know, the fact that he was a visionary born at the wrong time and he cared for his wife and his horse. He mentioned his horse before his wife, to be honest.
Oh, this is going to be great.
So his horse was named Jui, which I guess means the closest translation into English is dappled.
So I guess going into it, we're going to be starting with Xiang Yu here. What class do you think Xiang Yu is?
I would say rider or berserker.
Okay.
Because of his attitude, I lean towards berserker, but a lot of our, like, famous generals have been riders. Like commanders of troops of men have been riders.
So you ready for this?
And he obviously was not a swordsman.
You ready for this? I don't think you are.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
This, my friend, is Xiang Yu.
Is that a centaur?
Yes.
Oh, it actually looks really cool. Yeah, no, that looks awesome.
That's fucking badass, ain't it?
That's like the most metal fucking centaur that I have ever seen. He looks so derpy.
So your first thought here is probably, that's badass. The second thought here is, what the fuck is going on?
I mean, it's really badass. I just want to know why it's a centaur. I'm gonna be honest.
So here's the thing. We don't know what Xiang Yu looked like during his campaigns.
Okay.
This is one of those servants that we've been unable to see so far. Even the story of his... So, but
hey,
even
look.
in his...
Shi Chu Ba Wang.
Yep.
Great king of Western Chu.
But even
also, berserker, I was right.
Yes,
the second time.
yes, you were
Although
right,
my
berserker.
reasoning about, like, a lot of the generals we've seen being riders wasn't that far off.
No, I mean...
A lot of
he's
generals...
almost there.
Would you count that as riding or running proficiency?
Knowing other servants riding. But...
I'm just saying.
But even from his story, you already hear about how he had, like, unreasonable strength.
Yeah, he was really strong. He was really tall. I mean, and you have to think, humanity on the whole, like on average, has only gotten taller, right? As the centuries have passed. I mean, I think the average height for people living in Pompeii in 79 AD, right, was like 4.5 feet to 5 feet tall. He's living 300 years before that almost. Like, the average height that people reached was not that tall. And it's really funny because traditional hunter-gatherer, like, foraging societies have really, really tall people. And then when we made the switch to agriculture, we got significantly shorter very, very fast. And then we've just been growing taller as time has passed. But back then, I mean, the average height around the world would have been a good 6 to 8 inches shorter, I'd say.
So, to explain this, I've got to take some pretty massive side steps here.
Oh, boy.
Like, you're not expecting it to come to this angle. We will have to revisit some of this stuff later.
Oh, boy. I always love when we take several massive side steps.
So it all starts with Prince Neza from Journey to the West.
You didn't tell me to look up Neja.
That's because we're not dealing with that today.
Okay, but that's where it's... Okay.
The important part here is that Neja is, in fate, an artificial human made through what's called the Sage Arts.
Okay.
In many ways, kind of a magical robot.
Okay.
we'll see this technology again in Fate multiple times, but ultimately this makes its way down to Xiang Yu.
Okay.
Xiang Yu was made with the same technology. In short, Emperor Qin Shi Huang, there's our other sidestep, recovered the wreckage of Prince Neja while searching for the realm of the sages in his quest for immortality.
Which is actually accurate. I know we're going to talk about it more when we get to Qin Shi Huangdi, but that man was nutso in his search for immortality. He literally let people feed him fucking mercury until he fucking died because they thought it was the alchemical formula for fucking immortality. It's said that his tomb is surrounded by a river of mercury. There's a reason why, even though they've excavated into like his like burial of the army, they haven't excavated into the fucking pyramid of his, because like maybe there's mercury in it. Even if it's old, it's still fucking mercury. Jesus.
Well, he would use that technology to make an early version of Xiang Yu, who was then stolen by Xiang Liang.
Okay.
Who would then he would then be raised as Xiang Liang's nephew.
Very disappointingly, notably.
And at his death, he would pursue something programmed into him as a carryover from Neja's creation.
Okay.
He wanted to pursue a peaceful world.
To be fair, I mean, I will say, while I think that history portrays him as really violent and brutal, I certainly don't think that it's not that he was necessarily unusually brutal. I think this is at least partially a case of the victor writes, to the victor the spoils, the victor writes the history. Nobody writing about the first Han Emperor was going to talk about how Liu Bang was so brutal in his conquests. But they were going to say that about his opponent, first of all. And then second of all, you have to remember that, like, you know, he threatened to boil Liu Bang's father alive, and then Liu Bang was like, wait, we're brothers. And he was like, oh, my bad, bro. Here's your father and your wife and all the other hostages. Let's just make a peace treaty. And he was willing to honor it. I mean, he went back to Chu. It was Liu Bang who reneged on the treaty first. So
maybe history is not as black and white as it seems?
History is never black and white. History is filled with bias. We have to acknowledge it and move on. So,
even though he wished for a peaceful world, peace isn't achieved through this. Can be achieved through many different ways. And if you're not programmed with a moral compass, it can lead to a very different approach.
Makes right until we've seen the light.
Like, you know, just maybe simplify that 18 kingdoms at this point problem into one. So,
because Knick-Knack might makes right until they've seen the light.
What's funny here is Xiang Yu in Fate didn't see himself as that king to unite the world, though. He saw Liu Bang as that
Liu Bang?
king. Yeah, because Xiang Yu has basically a supercomputer programmed into his brain. Every like little failure he made was actually a calculated misstep in order to make Liu Bang. Sorry I know I'm butchering this pronunciation.
So you're adding an I where it's just Bang.
Sorry, Liu Bang?
Yeah, it's just Bang.
It was just to make Liu Bang the most... to set him up to be the most effective ruler for the peace of China. So...
Which makes even less sense why they wouldn't put Liu Bang out as a servant along with Xiang Yu.
Well, that's probably going to have to do with why he seems to have 2 extra arms and 2 extra legs.
Yeah.
And the general physicality of Dark Souls boss.
You know what he kind of looks like? You ever seen Disney's animated Hercules?
Yeah.
Remember the part where she's like, I'm a damsel, I'm in distress, I can handle it. He kind of looks like that Minotaur. It's a very specific reference, but it's what he looks like, a little bit.
This is not the Xiang Yu we know.
No.
This is from a Lostbelt, so an alternate history that went a very different direction.
Oh, like Ivan.
Yeah. Remember how I mentioned that Qin Shi Huang was the one that made him in the first place? Qin Shi Huang never loses him.
Oh.
He still gets the name Xiang Yu, so I don't know where that comes in. But so if he recovered him or not. But either way, he made modifications to him.
Yep.
To make him this, like, most efficient cavalry plus man killing machine he could.
Valid.
So this lost belt's called Sin. And in Sin, the Qin dynasty just never ends. Qin Shi Huang achieves immortality and rules over
Burns
China.
all the books, rules over everyone, is the fucking tyrant that he is.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sorry. I hate Qin Shi Huangdi.
No. That is exactly how it goes.
I hate him so much. I remember I read the Magic Treehouse books when I was a kid. And there was something with the Dragon Emperor, and it was going back in time to Qin Shi Huangdi, and it was specifically going back in time to the burning of the books. And I remember as just like an 8 or a 9-year-old being so fucking upset about the concept of like burning all the books. I was so mad. Like, so mad.
Shi Huangdi and Fate's going to be its entire own can of worms we have to go into. But as far as Xiang Yu goes, for this Shi Huangdi, he became Shi Huangdi's sort of enforcer in that world. Mm-hmm. There's a problem. Rub some Xiang Yu on it. So, one last important distinction here is that when you see him in that Lost Belt, that is the Lost Belt version. Mm-hmm. Later on, if you summon him again, it is not the Lost Belt version. It is the Lost Belt's body with the actual history's mind. Okay. So he just wakes up in this weird mechanical horse forearm General Grievous ass body.
You just had to throw a Star Wars reference in there.
Absolutely.
This bitch. Absolute bullshit.
Scroll down here.
Oh, I see proper human history and Lost Belt history.
Yep.
Okay. Somebody in the comments has requested that you let me read the relationship commentaries. You know, where it gives like little quotes between relationships with people?
Go ahead.
Okay. So, Consort Yu, a wife, that reuniting in this figure would be granted. I see. Thou no longer hast to wonder while not having a place to go. Ah, the one regret in my lifetime hath now been rewarded here. And Qin Shi Huang, that is my designer, to happen across him by surpassing the logic of time. Indeed, that frame must boast the highest peak of ability as a humanoid. It is joyful that my design was made use of later. Okay.
So I'm going to kind of skim over that.
Abilities!
So, he is all power, no grace.
Okay.
He was meant more to be humanoid, but the modifications made him extremely hard to damage and extremely strong, but took away any sort of, like, combat-like grace he would normally have.
To be fair, he never mastered the sword.
No.
That's fine. Alright, so, skills. He's got Wicked Enhancement. Okay. That's the artificial modification.
Future prediction is what I mentioned earlier with the fact that he's got that supercomputer, like, hyper-predictive mind.
Okay, that makes sense. Tactical body, martial force of the Hegemon-King. There it is. Yeah. Feared as a god of military arts because the incarnation of his anecdote and is misunderstood by humans, while as a combat weapon. In this sense, the skill could be similar to Innocent Monster. Hey! It's part of our Innocent Monster gang! One of these days we're going to do a video about, like, the Innocent Monster trope. So his noble phantasm is mountainous power, and do you want me to click into that?
You can if you want.
I was just wondering. I'm just going to ignore that. All right, mountainous power and matchless valor. My strength plucked up the hills, my might shadowed the world. The first two lines of the song of Jiaxin. Let's see. He's invoked as an anti-unit noble phantasm when summoned as a humanoid, but in the grotesque form as the man-horse type model. Oof. Turning it into a conventional weapon of mass slaughter. How nice.
So, go ahead and pull that up in FGO here.
Jesus. I mean, he looks really fucking cool. Like, here's the thing, right? You said, like, Dark Souls ass boss, right? But, like, let's change that to Elden Ring's ass boss, right? And, like, here's the thing. If I faced that in Elden Ring, I'd smash.
You would.
Well, there's that other dude I said that to. There is a really hot Elden Rings boss. It's not the one you guys think, but there's a... Actually, you know what? There's several very hot. Oh, they've changed the tenses. So that's interesting. When he activated it, right, the first two lines, they were a repeat of the first lines of the Song of Gaixia, but he changed the tenses. So it said, my strength will pick up the mountains. My might will shadow, is going to. So it was more in a, this is happening, not my time is not now.
So yeah, that's Xiang Yu. But speaking of other people who would fuck that horse.
You want me to close this?
No, because we're gonna need a second here.
Oh God. Okay.
So, Xiang Yu isn't the only.
Wait, look, his face doesn't look that bad. There's monsters. There's varying levels of like.
Xiang Yu isn't the only one to take a bit of an odd turn here.
Oh no.
Consort Yu does as well. Fate actually says that Consort Yu she in history faked her suicide.
Okay.
Knowing that she needed to go and Xiang Yu's death was coming, because Xiang Yu can predict that fucking future now.
Yeah. No, so I mean, she traveled along with him to his military campaigns, but that would really just leave her to be a vulnerability in the event of, like, him trying to flee.
Well.
I mean, remember Ushi Wakamaru?
I'll say this. Here in Fate, she is not quite that vulnerable.
Oh, okay.
Because remember, Xiang Yu needs to lose this battle in Xiang Yu's calculations.
Yeah.
She's not exactly human, though, in the first place.
Okay.
And so she...
That's not a deal breaker, as we've seen.
She's also, like, I want to stop you right there. Don't expect another Xiang Yu here.
Oh, damn.
You're not getting your pair of horses having hot horse sex.
There are other things that could have hot sex together. It just doesn't need to be a horse. There are plenty of other animals. I'm kidding.
She is, in Fate, a variant of... Do you remember when I brought up True Ancestors?
Yeah.
She's almost one of those.
Okay.
Let me go ahead and just show you the first design that anyone got to see of her.
Okay.
So, we'll get to it in a minute, but that is the Chaldea uniform, if you've seen the main character artworks.
Yeah.
So, True Ancestors, for a quick refresher, are children of the planet, basically. Meant to cull humanity in the event that humanity acts up.
Yeah.
Fate's vampires. Consort Yu, likewise, is also one of those vampires, at least in ability. Normally, True Ancestors, they're prone to bloodlust. Consort Yu is not, because she's not a straight True Ancestor. She's what's called a Xian, which is capable of vampiric abilities, but is not, unlike the Ancestors, just doesn't crave blood unless, like, she's out in the middle of a fucking desert with nothing but, like, another person with her.
Okay. Ooh. Anastasia, Permafrost Empire, and Goddardammerung.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So, because she's one of those, she's incapable of dying at all.
Okay.
Though, she was rather brokenhearted over Xiang Yu's death, and she kind of, for a long time, wished she could die.
That's fair.
So, in the modern day, she lives as this person, Akuta Hinako.
Okay.
Akuta here always burrows her...
Is it Akuta or Akuta?
It's Akuta. It's Akuta.
Okay.
She always buries herself in her books, so she can both ignore those around her while also hiding her face as she analyzes and judges others.
I feel that.
She is a member of what Chaldea calls Team A. This makes her one of Mash's initial teammates when everything kind of goes boom.
Mm-hmm. Oh, look, one of her names is Yu the Beauty.
Yu Meirin.
Yu Meirin.
But because things went boom and she was on MASH's team, she also had a front row seat to that too.
Yeah.
And so, along with everyone else in Team A, she was frozen in cryostasis in a pod.
Okay.
And she actually probably would have survived that, given, vampire.
Yeah.
The same cannot be said for the rest of Team A, though, who absolutely would have died in that explosion.
Yeah.
We see where MASH ends up, but other than her and MASH, everyone would not have been spared.
Yeah.
At that point, though, and this gets into huge spoilers for FGO Part 2.
Okay.
An alien being from another world would approach them and make a deal with them.
Is it an Artoria?
No!
Thank God.
Not that we know.
I swear to fucking God, that's going to become my new question. Is it an Artoria?
They could live if Team A helped replace human history with any one of the Lostbelts.
Okay.
Team A at that point would become known as the Cryptors.
Mm-hmm.
Normally, because she would have lived anyways, there's no reason for Consort Yu to take this deal.
But it was everyone else in the team.
She doesn't give a fuck about her team.
Aw. Yeah.
So, it would normally be like, okay, fuck off, I'm not taking that deal, I'm gonna live anyways. But remember that one of the Lostbelts is Chinese and had that Xiang Yu in it.
Oh, so she can get a version of Xiang Yu back.
Yes, and it diverges at the exact point prior to Xiang Yu's death.
Yeah.
And beyond that, even if she couldn't get Xiang Yu there, under that plan, she would also have a chance to summon him as a servant.
Yeah.
So, of course, she takes it, not caring one bit about that alien being's greater plan, nor her life, but rather it allowed her to give her own life meaning again.
Okay.
So she enters the Sin Lostbelt and immediately sides with Shi Huangdi, but doesn't tell him at all about this upcoming war of histories between the Lostbelts that's going to come. Mm-hmm. Because she doesn't want him sending Xiang Yu out to battle again.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I'll skip over the story plot of Sin, but the end result are, obviously, Shi Huangdi, her, and Xiang Yu are defeated.
Okay.
Shi Huangdi surrenders, but Xiang Yu does not, leading Xiang Yu to die a slow, painful death as he breaks down and just over time just becomes incapable of functioning.
Okay.
In anger, Consort Yu uses one of the major things in the Lostbelt called the Tree of Emptiness to try killing everyone.
Okay.
This ends with her being defeated, and her spirit would then take a very, very long time to regenerate. At that point, Shi Huangdi convinces her to just enter the Throne of Heroes and become a heroic spirit where she is now summonable.
Okay.
So this is her outfit as Chaldea, as Akuta.
All right.
As Consort Yu, this is what she looks like. Get her designs here.
Aww.
Higher fan service.
Hot. What the fuck? I love it.
That's the face of a murderer.
Anger.
So, you can see the two swords in her artwork here it chooses to fight. But let me go ahead and scroll down here, see if you catch anything. We'll stop at the relationships. We will see that artwork again.
Yeah, we'll cover the artwork when it gets there. Alright. So I read that one already. So, Qin Chi Wang. Wait,
Actually, these are going to be different, because these are from the perspective of the person speaking.
Oh,
the servant,
okay.
So.
Finally we could mate. The position of heroic spirit that veils over mankind. Xiang Yu-sama is a fitting one for you. I was ready to wait for you until the end of time. And Qin Shi Huang. For what kind of reason did the Lostbelt's Emperor get involved with Chaldea? No matter how much of a hermit beyond reality he is, there's no limit to acting illogically. And then Ibuki Doji, Shuten Doji, Ibaraki Doji. Yamato's Oni? Even you have sided with Chaldea? I see. I want to hear a little about what kind of circumstances made you join with humans.
So to get down to abilities here, she uses her two swords that she generates from her own blood.
Mm-hmm.
And she has the vampiric ability of draining mana from others and over time from the environment as well.
Mm-hmm.
She can use this to try recovering her strength quickly and is able to draw mana and energy just from everywhere, which is why she doesn't have that bloodlust.
Okay. So I know she's an assassin class because I read it earlier.
Yeah.
So presence concealment, I get that. Incarnated spirit, I assume that's the whole true ancestor thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Feathered being of the Xian realm.
That's part
Taoist ideology, and one who has immortality. Makes sense. Blood sucking. Yeah, makes sense. Then her noble phantasm is eternal lament. A move typically called a suicide.
Yep.
Yeah. The song of Consort Yu. I wonder.
Turns her into a makeshift bomb.
I was just wondering if it did the same thing where it like gave the two lists. Yeah, it doesn't, but okay.
Yeah, she can blow up and reconstruct herself for her NP.
All right. I see down there that we have alternate versions.
Yes, but let's go ahead and look at her NP here first.
Okay.
There's no straight preview, so I'm gonna have to... Oh, nope, wrong one.
This is the Valkyries.
Yeah.
You trying to find something?
The NP.
There.
泣いて許し滅びの定めにすら見放された我が永遠の祖国空よ雲よ哀れみの涙で命はなるわ
So yeah, that is Consort Yu.
Okay.
We also have a summer form.
All right.
So this is Lancer Consort Yu.
Ah, Lancer.
Fancy.
You know I love me a good Lancer. I do like this. Is that... What is her pin supposed to be? It kind of looks like a shitty version of Xiang Yu.
You know what?
In color, and it's got the little jagged mask thing at the bottom of his face.
That might be.
Okay, just commenting. Because it's in all of her arts. It's more detailed in some than others.
So I guess we're going to keep going with the story here a little bit more.
Oh god, do we really need more of the story?
Do you want to know what's going on with Lancer? So, Consort Yu and Xiang Yu are ultimately summoned to Chaldea.
Okay.
And needless to say, Xiang Yu is the only reason she stays and doesn't kill the main character before fucking off.
Okay. What did he do to piss her off? Exist?
Defeated her.
Oh.
That'll do it. Eventually, this led to a summer where she prepared a wonderful swimsuit and decided to go on a beautiful mission in an outing at a lakeside camp with Xiang Yu.
It is a lovely swimsuit.
Only for Xiang Yu to trick her by not coming, as he would be a problem for what was about to go down there. Remember that future sight?
Yeah. Oh.
She initially spends a lot of the time moping, but something was going on. As it turns out, the entire thing was meant to be a means of killing her, and her specifically,
Oh god.
by an old associate of hers, who we will be covering on another day.
Soon?
Not necessarily soon.
Okay. In the schedule is a better question.
I don't think it's in the schedule either.
Oh.
See, I lost my place here. So she doesn't die, but ends up fighting a duplicate version of herself at one point, and comes to a loud and public conclusion that it's not worth trying to kill another version of yourself.
Okay.
It just doesn't end very well.
Yeah.
Emiya happened to be nearby at the time of this conversation and proclamation.
The irony.
By the end, she is given the option of dying and makes the choice that she doesn't want to.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah. So, in the Lancer class here, she is viable at killing anyone she catches ogling her, except for Xiang Yu.
Fair.
So, Blackbeards beware. So ability-wise...
It's
so,
called admiration.
actually, we don't have an abilities page here for her. I can click her skills down here, but her lance is actually one of Xiang Yu's lances.
Okay.
I can click into these if you want.
I can read them. The Incarnated Spirit of Summer, Princess of the Hegemon-King, and Dance of Past Days. Okay.
Her noble phantasm is called Auto Fling Rondo.
It's anti-fling.
Or anti-fling Rondo, yeah. It's a commendation of her Eternal Lament, while she also uses Xiang Yu's Spear to ground herself. She uses it to release it as a tornado of energy. I can click into this if you want to read the flavor text here.
Okay. Huh. Ah. See, that's context you need to include. That in this context, fling is slang for cheating. Amazing. Mm-hmm. Amazing.
So, over here, we'll go ahead and see her NP. We actually have a proper intro here.
上からくるくるしてあの方の目を
Respectfully, man. Yes.
どこを見てるたまにはこういうのもねあの方の目を楽しませたいだけ触れられると思ってたさあもう死んでいない降雨様より託されたこの槍は夏の魔物をことごとく撃滅さしまう我が呪いはただその意に従うのみ焼いた走り狂うある時の手足が細くカナ失滅サーブ
That's not all. We have an arcade.
We have an arcade. Of just summer?
Just summer.
Amazing.
Not regular Consort Yu, not Xiang Yu. Just summer.
10 out of 10.
ありがたく思いなさい私に夏を満喫させるため
Yeah, it does look a little bit like a version of him up there in her hair.
It
does, doesn't it? Is that Emiya?
Yeah. Remember, Emiya at the end of the day is still a harem protagonist.
That's very true. I like it. You mind if I close?
Close everything except for the ones that have the little Artoria face next to them.
Okay. Alright.
I checked them all. All the words should be safe.
Okay. We're coming down here.
Click through the different artworks here.
Oh yeah, icon. Yeah, see that looks like his face
That
in
is
her
his face.
little thing. No, but on her little headband thing. Yeah. There's the pixelated. Oh, see that looks really nice. Yeah. Yeah. Look good. Okay. Hey, Kwaiji commentary. Remember? I talked about this. Just looking. Those are like diagnoses of the inside of something. Okay. Understandably. This is how everything started for me. The map of a court noble's dream, an ideal drawn up, ultimately creating me. That dream has now become a distant past. After numerous expansions and updates, my form shows no traces of what was originally drawn. Yet I wanted to at least pass down and show everyone the original concept. Once, this was how I was imagined. Aw. There's some pretty cool stuff in there. Xiang Yu's sword. Valentine's return gift. The weapon that helped lead the synchronized intellect nation to world domination in the Lostbelt. The many nicks and marks on it tell the tale of an uncountable fierce battles it has seen. Yeah.
By the way, and I mentioned Sin as the Lostbelt name earlier. That was what it was.
I'd figured that out.
Yeah. So
Oh God, he's up here. What the fuck? Is he supposed to be the reindeer?
I think so.
Oh God.
There's no spoilers in the words here.
They think about the presents, hoping that they would make the children smile. Tonight is Christmas. Santa Claus's wish would, in turn, be granted by the children. What the fuck?
You leaping over the moon.
Oh, this is like more traditionally styled, like Chinese art. Yeah. Here's Xiang Yu. Is this Liu Bai then?
No.
Oh.
Different person, same conflict, I believe.
Ah. On a pinnacle unreachable by mere ordinary men, brilliantly dancing rigid blade, fiercely swinging jade halberd. One could say, when a first is seen and the second will be non-existent, or so to speak, superior outshines inferior. The indecisive will be unreasonable, that is, being unrivaled by 10,000 men. The moon hasn't had enough for looking upon them. Its yawn has silently infused by the endless clashing of sword and halberd. There's some issues with that English translation.
This was auto-translated, so...
that would make sense then. It's probably meant to be a lot more poetical than this. But, like, those last couple lines got me. But I really like the art. Like, this looks really, really pretty. Okay.
Consort Yu.
Yep.
There's actually a fair bit of extra artwork here.
Okay. Icons. So she's got icons. We've got sprites. Expression sheets.
So she's also one of the servants that got censored by China.
Oh.
Actually, fun fact about a bunch of these Chinese servants from this chapter. A bunch of the Chinese servants also had their names censored because they didn't want to have the names associated with the characters in China. So they're just known as like Lancer 42 or something like that.
Yeah. We're going to see this later, but I like seeing the full version when I have the time. That's pretty. That's horny.
She's a taken woman.
Oh, there she is.
Yep. So
is
those
that
are all
Anastasia's master?
Yeah, so those are all the cryptors that I mentioned earlier.
Ah. Is that a servant I know?
No, that's not a servant.
Oh, is that...
That's just a very hot man in your standards, I assume.
Yeah. Oh, look at that. She's so cute in her little straw hat. Let's see.
So that's the moment where Xiang Yu dies and she's like losing her mind.
Yeah. Oh, she was in here.
Yep, there she is.
There she is, yeah.
Right behind MASH.
Because there's Skahak. Cute.
That's her.
I like the angle.
Great angle on Himiko.
Great angle on Himiko. Is that a sailor? It's a Sailor Scout uniform.
Think so.
Amazing.
That's just horny.
I like that
That's
too.
very horny.
I like it. Like, missed that click like 4 times in a row.
Skill issue.
Alright, the book that she is reading. Okay, no hints on what the book actually is. I don't need this anymore, so you can have it. It wasn't a particularly interesting book to begin with. I already skimmed through it multiple times, and I even tried reading it literally sideways and upside down. But there's still no way for me to understand human sensibility. Telling me to enjoy it is a tall order in itself. It did come in handy, though, especially as here in Chaldea no one was ever willing to bother somebody who's trying to read. And for that alone, this place was definitely better than many others I could have spent my time in. That's right, this book was a shield with which I could deceive others. That's why I don't need this anymore. After all, there's no need for me to lie about my origins anymore, now is there? Nice. Would have been funny if it was just like some like random ass like romance novel or some shit. I don't know.
I guess I should mention this. She's been on both sides of both master and as servant now.
Yeah, I saw the commentary about whose master she was.
She was a shit master. Like, there's an entire interlude where you and her swap what servants you had back in the Lostbelt, and you still managed to beat her.
Jesus. Okay. Oh, there's a new and old dichotomy here. So...
God, I hate these.
I see the difference.
What is it?
Okay. So the difference is right here and right here. Look at the way that her hand moves. It's like ever so slightly different. You can really only see it when flipping between them. Like, just like a line brightened here, a line brightened there. Beautiful dreamer. Okay. I have no interest in other people's customs, and then she headed into her room and closed the door. But after a few minutes, it appears she has gone into a deep state of reflection, using boredom as an excuse. Will there ever be a day when she'll be able to balance compromise and vanity?
And there she is with the book again.
Yep. Different book this time, I assume. Up-to-date gifted confectionery. Oh. Look, blooming tea. A handmade gift fashioned by Yu Mei-ren after she conducted extensive research about Valentine's Day. They're extravagant chocolates, if only in appearance. Her research led her to conclude that chocolate is a sweet, dark-colored confection, which is an idea she took and ran with. She used solidified black sesame paste instead of cacao. As long as you think of it as pastryless mooncake, it should be quite tasty. This is what you call worldly wisdom. Impressed? Yes? Then starting tomorrow you should be twice as reverent of me. I mean, she's not wrong, but she's not right. You know what I mean? Oh, I wonder who that is. But there's a doggo. There's a doggo. 4th anniversary. I approve. And we saw this one. This was the,
Oh, it's voiced.
Oh.
この後はサバイに行くわ。コウウ様とペアメガネよ。
Xiang Yu in glasses.
Mm-hmm. It's under the same sky in this our world.
I didn't realize they had a voiced one back then.
Yeah. After this, I'm going to Sabai, the city famous for manufacturing eyeglasses. Xiang Yu and I are going to get matching pairs. Glorious. Spare the idle talk.
You don't know that person in the background, but that's
I know this person.
yes. Horny.
She's gonna look. Leisurely lying in a cozy atmosphere, just rambling chit-chats and out-of-focus responses. Like feather sank into the waters, gently dozing, softly swaying. Nothing in particular. Ah, this extravagant, elegant flower.
Like a very poetic thing, and then the artwork's just the horniest thing you've ever seen. There's far fewer artworks with her. So.
I would assume so. She looked newer. Saw that. Okay. Icons. Yup. Sprites. Expression sheets. Others. Okay. That's the one.
I like that the context there actually it's actually drawn like it's in a filter.
Yeah. Huh. I get no respect. That should be addressed, don't you think? Alright. Oh, yeah, you're right. Only 2. Sad. Cuddling up in summer. Oh, look at that. 2 glasses. Glasses! There are times when they exchange sweet nothings, but most of the time they say nothing. There are times when they gaze at each other, but most of the time they do not. The man and woman simply sit alongside each other, for they very well know that such moment is more valuable than any honor or riches. What comes after this is a summer moment that came about from a miracle. No matter where it will be or what will happen, as long as they can feel each other's presence, nothing shall deter them. They are not to indulge themselves in pleasure, nor do they seek refuge from the heat. They simply melt away in the heat of pleasure as they drift off. And that is how they spend their summer, snuggling together. God damn. Why does everybody have such fucking adorable fucking relationships? Fuck this shit. Oh, it is him! It is him! That little pin in her hair is him! Look! Look at them! Look at them cookies! I don't know if they're cookies. Let's see. Heart-shaped chocolates, which proudly bear a caricature illustration of Yu and her beloved, mirroring the glee she exhibited during summer. Like a wedding announcement, the purpose of these chocolates is to make sure everyone knows that she obtained happiness. According to her, each of the chocolates depicting Xiang Yu has him smiling, glaring, angry, sleepy, gazing, calculating, and this represents a collection of wonderful facial expressions that would make anyone's heart skip a beat. It's frankly hard to tell them apart. Additionally, there's apparently a rule regarding how to eat these chocolates, which forbids the eater from breaking the chocolates in any way that might seem to split the illustrated couple up. The greatest crime, which is punishable by death, is splitting the chocolate cleanly in half. It's a real pain to eat. I gotta be honest, I would snap it down the middle.
That would be your first instinct.
Yeah, for ease of eating. You know what I mean?
So,
there are slight differences in some of the faces. Look, that one's got a little anger mark, and this one's eyes are more flat.
So, you can choose whether or not you actually want to include this in the video or if you want to just keep this out. Okay. Remember, I was chuckling at something in the car?
Okay.
No cock like horse cock. Send your asshole into shock.
Came to mind when we were playing.
You know what? Send that to me because I downloaded that video and I can put them on screen together. Y'all are going to see something truly wild.
If you're going to be putting this out there, shout outs to Keon, just Keon on Twitter. I love that guy's account, or that girl. I actually don't know if it's a guy or a girl. I love that account.
That person's account. But with that being said, we have another servant that we get to give you a hint for.
You want me to give the hint, or you want to give the hint?
I think we should go smoke on it.